Talk News, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. All right. Okay, we're at the pretty much the halfway point of the second hour. That's the little warning sign. I always get that. It's
Okay.
pretty cool. Just let me know where I'm at. Oh, goodness. I'm just like, we got off track here. You're saying that's what it does. It's like, and then it makes us look dumb, or like we're lying or something.
And then we got to scatter around trying to get everything going again.
Yeah, well, we could figure it out again. I'm not worried about it.
Well, you technically, because I used to sit in the studio with you, and I remember the blue screen and everything.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it. Oh, yeah, you know what happens. Yeah. It's crazy. Anyway, so there will be probably these little like spots on the rebroadcast in those exact areas where it'll be black or it'll be a freeze frame, and you won't hear nothing, and then it'll come back in the live time. That's what I've noticed when they do this. So then a lot of the stuff that we were even talking about, they won't even hear. I mean, it won't even it won't get broadcast because we're talking over the freeze. But whatever, I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm just glad that it's obvious to everybody that continues to watch and share the information. And they see that it's that we, again, what I say on the show on Monday through Thursday and what Vinny and I are talking about today, we don't ask you to believe us. And as far as the fact that they are attacking us, we know why they're attacking us. But we ask you to do one thing. We don't ask you to hide. We ask you to research. Find out all the information that I'm talking about is true. And Vinny's talking about. Look into it. It's really true. And then say to yourself, well, that makes more sense why they would not want people to know this. Well, then tell people. And if all of our voices unite, they can't make up these lies. It's eventually, like the way I look at television and the media and everything, it's a joke, okay? If all of America, instead of only a small percentage of Americans, could wake up to that, they can't get away with their bullshit. So our job is to wake up the masses so that they don't watch television. They watch shows like We Are Change Connecticut and Truth Talk News and Death to the New World Order with Harry Link and this is and on truthbroadcastnetwork.com, and they watch all the shows on Project Freedom Radio, including Bobby K's shows. He's got several of them. And they get the information there. They don't get the information from these liars. And then the liars won't be getting any revenue because nobody will be watching them. So
they're already not making any money. They're there just to push the agenda.
Well, that's true. The news never
like the
makes
network.
money.
Remember in the network, it didn't even matter they were losing money. He was pushing what they wanted to push. And that's what it is nowadays. Nobody... No, Fox
changed.
News, all that, they've all been going down. The only reason that they had that big spike was 9/11. Everybody was obsessed with the news because of war. But then once that wears off, I mean, nobody cares about Larry King and Bill O'Reilly. It's a joke.
I know. It is a joke.
Go interview Jenna Jameson. Like, get real, man. This ain't real news. So, they're already losing. The newspapers, that's why so many newspapers had to go under. Because a lot of people aren't buying their crap anymore, but they'll still continue to push it because they don't care. It's not about making money on this issue. This is about mind control, and they're paying to. It's like advertising, it's like they're paying news companies to advertise for them. That's really all it is, and that's the point I'm making.
It's more than advertising to control them,
Yeah. But I mean, they're just selling what the investor wants them to sell, like a salesman is what these news people are, and they're going down. But I always talk about this too, Howie. It's a good point. I mean, it's not just the news. It's stop going to McDonald's. Stop. Me. I've got I haven't had internet. Not internet. Cable or anything in years, and a lot of people I know, get away from it. Really all you need is the internet if you want to be able to do things. I mean, if you have the internet, you can watch whatever you want. You might not be watching, the live CSI or whatever you're watching on these things, but you could watch basically anything. Uh, a day later, you could download things. I mean, you don't need it. Don't give your hundred something dollars a month to these companies. Try to, it's about everything. Trying to get away from all their systems as much as we can. That's the whole off the grid way of living. That's why me and Hank and a lot of people, I'm sure Howie, you're the same way. Same way is a lot of us want to get alternative ways of energy.
Yes.
Why give my money to Rockefeller every month for electric,
Yeah.
or whoever, General Electric.
Same thing.
So what if you could, make your own or solar panels or anything, any way to get out of the system is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the nonviolent ways that we always talk about,
Yes.
without, drawing on, bearing arms and marching. You can do a lot by non-compliance, by not giving your money to these companies, and that is a big thing,
Well, that's what
and
we try to talk about. I mean, everything,
yeah,
especially
that's why I'm glad you brought it up. It
the
is that's
wasted money to for the useless things. I mean, people need electricity, Vinny, and these other things. But you're right; they're
yeah,
profiteering off of it. But the truth is that the consumerism, getting people that they need to get these things to feel good. And like I really
uh-huh,
feel bad. I got angry because before the show started, my wife came in. She's talking to her father-in-law or something about some thing with like rodents having some disease someplace. So like
okay.
the I sort of really was really yelling and screaming. I really wasn't talking properly to her, and it's terrible. And I do that sometimes. It makes me sick. And then I really feel bad about it. But the point was that her father was like, "I'm gonna get a heart attack unless you get rid of these creatures." And I'm like, "This is right before we go to air, right before I spoke to you." And I'm like all full of this whole thing, and just my own feelings about how her father for the last 22 years basically has tried to control our entire lives. So being the way I am, I sort of like ripped into it, and I was a little over like. And then I mean, he wants to let Patrick get these vaccinations, and of course he didn't though, since I've been aware. And it's like, and that's it. And I said, if he's going to have a heart attack because my son doesn't get a vaccine, well, so be it. And anyway, so I'm like sort of in the doghouse a little with my wife these days, or from now forward. I don't know how long, but whatever. I got to
Sorry
tell
to hear
you,
that,
yeah,
but
man. But it is
again,
what
the
it
truth
is, man. But
is
the truth
nobody's
is,
perfect, and we
nobody's
all
perfect,
have
and I
our.
lost my cool
Yep,
because this is very frustrating to me. See, I don't. This isn't a game. I don't look at this. She thinks this is like entertainment to me, maybe or whatever. But maybe whatever. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. To me, this is an extremely serious thing that has a purpose
yep,
and a meaning, and I need to be in the right frame of mind to do it. And her father calling and right before I do a show or during the show or whatever, like it happened here before the phone rang a while, and you know what? All this stuff distracts me, and it frustrates me. So yeah, and what am I going to scream at the audience? Yeah, God damn it, it's all your fault. But the truth is that it's my fault, and I was out of line, and I'm telling that to the entire world. So I am
well, that's
human.
pretty big of you, Howie,
Well, I
and
really was out of line, man, and she's mad. I know she's mad, and I hurt her feelings. But you know what? I hurt her feelings because she's been, again, to a certain degree, and this is I'm not taking any ownership off what I did and my guilt, but the truth is that her reaction to it, is again like I don't understand her, and she doesn't understand me. It's like I'm frustrated, and this is not the time to talk about that.
well,
and and
I hear
and,
you.
and I'm frustrated because it is frustrating, man. I mean, most of my friends that I knew from years ago,
I think that's why most of us start yelling is because we feel frustration. Is probably why you started getting.
yeah, and everything that's been going on, and there's no excuse though. I mean, there really is no excuse, and I'll talk about this because I realize that it is all about your life is such a big part. You can't leave out. I mean, I talk about this all the time, but you can't leave out your personal feelings. I try to give just information, but I'm a human being, man, and it's like and
Yeah,
and I do have a responsibility to be here. I feel that way, and I do it. And I know everybody knows that the consistency level is there. I'm always here. I'm always, maybe I'm a
yeah.
second late or whatever, but I'm the consistent. So I hold that responsibility. um, to a to a high esteem. I mean, I try to wake people up. I'm not doing this for any other reason. And then this something like this happening, what I felt was emotionally, was like, a fucking my son, my wife, we got a hamster. Okay, so
Okay.
there's this rodent thing that he hears of on the controlled mainstream media. So a hamster is a rodent, so he's going to have a heart attack if I don't get rid of this rodent, this hamster, and it caused this whole big thing. So anyway, right before the show, and I reacted because it's just an example of many different examples, and I feel real
Well,
bad because I'm yelling at her, and it's not her fault. I should be yelling at him, and I explained that, but it's the way I talk to her. I shouldn't talk to her that way, and she's right. So again, I don't know what else I could do more than apologize to her. I did it on air.
well, that's yeah. Well, that's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah, man.
admitting,
I do feel bad. I really did. I
that you're
fucked
wrong.
up. I
It,
mean, I was my
how you're
frustration,
talking to a guy who,
my
I mean,
frustration and
all I do,
anger
I fight probably more
gets
than
the best of
anybody,
me.
and I'm, I have my temper. People know with me,
No, but
so
it's because I'm so
you know,
pissed off about everything, Vinny.
it, it's normal.
I'm just
It's
so
normal.
pissed off about everything. I mean, because these bastards are stealing our wealth and keeping and subjugating us to lower and lower standards of living to maintain the certain more and more you're reducing your standard of living or you're getting resources from another job or something because that's what's going on. You can't survive the standard of living you're maintaining on the way that the costs are rising and the wages are literally going down here in Connecticut. It was in the newspaper just yesterday in the Hartford Current controlled mainstream media rag. It said that, and it reported an AP article that in Connecticut, it's definitely down. I mean, the wages are not stagnant; they're going down.
Which is really bad when you got the price of everything going up.
Yes. So everyone has to get another job. So it's giving more, it's putting more, but they don't care because the consumers love it. The consumer, you go out, you're going to still buy all that same shit, right? A lot of people will. They'll
Mm.
go out and get a job and keep their illusion of this, this vision of what it is to be, the great American family with the, you know,
Yeah, you're free. You're free
you're
to do
free
what
to
we tell you.
free to do what they tell you, right? Exactly. And it's sickening, and it really is.
Well, it is. I mean, that's one of the bad things that we wake up every day, and when you're awake like us, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, this is one of the horrible things that every day you got to wake up and know that this is going on, and that's why it really is a fight that we're all in, not just me and Howard. Even you, the listeners, this is a fight that you're involved in, whether you realize it or not. And every day, Howie, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting depressed now, and
No,
I don't
just
want to
keep
do
going,
that.
man. No, no, no. You
But
gotta you gotta let them know what's really happening. You see, look, and then they call you. They say that you're a doom and gloomer or whatever they say, and they'll go into this
uh,
whole thing about cycles. And you know what? When they talk about cycles, this fact about cycles that there's a business
yeah,
cycle,
depression. Yeah, the
depressions,
economy will get
recessions. Right,
better. It's a
right. It's
cycle.
a cycle. Well, yes, but you got to understand the way I'm understanding this. My research, and maybe you can concur this with me, Vinny, has come to the point where they have that as a fact, and they're utilizing that fact to sort of get everyone to have this sense of optimism and build everything up while this cliff that they're going to that they now here's the truth
No,
that
I'm with you. I
no no no
agree.
no no here's my point. Listen, Ben. So the truth is that the truth of the cycle is true. So in other words, that is a truth. That is an indisputable truth. Now this is how it's weaved. The cliff is this fraudulent bullshit derivative debt, this trillions of dollars of fraudulent debt that all these banksters are stealing from all these governments and countries, okay? to the people of those countries to bring in the New World currency. And they'll utilize this fraudulent bullshit cliff that everyone's going to fall off of, and they're going to feel it too, because your credit cards aren't going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Those food stamp cards aren't going to work. And when that kind of thing happens, that's the crisis. But it's really true. We as a people would rise normally above these economic conditions. This is the longest recession in history, and there's a reason why. Because if you dumped $2 trillion like Obama has dumped, I think close to $3 trillion into the banksters' coffers, all you have done was wasted the money, created more debt made out of interest,
Devalued. Yep.
devalued currency, and you have elongated the natural course of the economy.
I agree.
And now the cliff will come. And yes, so will this recovery. But just when it's recovering is when the cliff, in my fears, because we have a little bit of growth. Now they're talking about 1.3% growth. That is not anemic. That doesn't cover the bills. Okay, so 1.3% growth, we need 3.3% above. That's what we need. But we're only getting 1.3, and they're all loving that.
I don't honestly think there's going to be a recovery this time, Howard.
No, that's what I'm saying. But no, it's going to be fraudulent. This is what I'm saying. It's all going to be a fraud. It's to bring in this world currency, as I said. But I think that that if they left it alone, you see what I'm saying? It's fraudulent. The whole thing, the debt is fraudulent. The whole Ponzi scheme is fraudulent. But if you just left the economy alone, it takes care of itself, because the corporations aren't complicit. You know, mom and pop that work in the corporation stores and all these other different, you work in Walmart, or you're a manager or whatever, wherever it is, you're not complicit in this thing. Even, it's only the people at the top that have the highest shareholders of the largest corporations. These are the ones that are making these subjugations, and that's what they're doing. And I believe that the economy will get better if it wasn't for the fraudulent, intentional devaluation, etc., so on and so forth. That has been going on. When is the event going to happen? I think they need another war. I think more, the more things are going on.
Which is probably going to happen this month or next month.
Yeah, and that'll help the economy. That'll, of course, it'll help us,
I honestly think that it's going to be really bad, and it's not that far away. And the euro is going to go probably
the euro
really
is
soon.
Going to go. Yeah,
like,
euro's
like in days,
teetering.
weeks, the euro could be gone, and then
teetering.
ours.
It is teetering, and there's no doubt about it. It is teetering on the brink of decimation, and again, it was created to fail. Planned to fail. And interestingly enough, we went over this once before, Vinny, and I think the realization literally came to me while we were on air, was the fact that, have you ever? I'm sorry, I'm talking about this rhetorically to the audience. Have you ever possibly considered the fact that our great nation, with the greatest, most incredible document ever created for humanity, and created the most incredible wealth in the world, was designed to fail, was designed to collapse?
Yep.
And the strength of the people led it to this place where the founders themselves only expected 20, maybe 30, if they were lucky, 50 or 100 years. They never expected it would last as long as it did. However, they're just riding the storm, because it's all about money and these corporations that have been built up since the founding of our great republic. And it is no longer a republic. They call it a democracy. And the world is not individual. It is a collective. They want us to have this socialism, this let us all be one collective. Individual rights do not account. That's where they're moving with this Agenda 21 protocols and everything else from the United Nations.
That is the New World Order you just described.
Yep, that is exactly it. And the individual freedoms of our country and our Constitution, where it states right there, for the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. you would say they're attacking the founding fathers, they're attacking the founding principles. Well, what if, like I said, throughout time, maybe it wasn't that they created it initially, but somewhere after the Constitution was ratified and put into place, these elitists, I believe, came up with an idea to destroy our nation for this Marxist purpose that we're falling closer and closer to every day. And I don't know if it was from the beginning, and that was the speculation, Vinny, that they started it from the beginning.
Yeah, I have my theories.
What's your spin on that? Well, do you think it
I
was something
think
that they started from the
I
beginning,
think
or
that
it,
it was
or it,
started
or it?
out from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think from day one that they had those plans. I think that the bloodline, that Rothschilds, the Queen, the the bloodline. I honestly think that it probably was from day one. They had plans for what they were going to do in the new world, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they already knew about America and everything in the beginning, and knew about Indians and what was over here, and then they came, and I then think that very great great people, great men, uh, got fed up of Britain and really did. I think they really did. Masons and founding fathers really did, I think, stand up to Britain and tried to break free from Britain. Um,
Well, we know that
I,
that we really didn't break free from Britain
but
because
that's what I was going to
we
say
are
is
still a colony of Britain.
yes, but I do think that the founding fathers who wrote up the Constitution, I think that was real. That was a real intention, like you were saying. They probably didn't know how long it would last, like you were saying, but I think that those people, it was legit. They really, that wasn't a scam. That they were playing with Britain.
Right.
There was real fights. George
No,
Washington,
no,
these
there's no
people were
doubt. No,
fighting,
no, they're fighting
and well,
for our
I'm
freedom.
not saying to you, but to listeners, who might,
Mm-hmm.
um, but then we know throughout time. I mean, uh, people die, but the bloodline, these people stay forever. Their bloodline, and you know, they have been on a nonstop assault from day one, and they're not gonna stop. They're never. Why would they ever stop trying to conquer the whole world? And America was no different. And eventually, uh, they infiltrated and took everything back. And I would say that this probably started at the War of 1812. To me, the War of 1812 is really big in America's history.
Oh
And I
yeah,
always
we definitely have to. We can go deep into this whole
and,
thing.
and
Big
yeah, and
lies from what they tell you happened as to what really happened.
yeah, I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
taught in school that a bunch of farmers and old ladies and guys with shotguns and farmers stood up to the most powerful army on the planet and defeated them. Uh, and they admit that, yeah, they burnt down the White House. They were doing all this, and then supposedly like 10,000 farmers hold them off right at the end, and that's a big lie. And if you do research, you start seeing uh, articles and things that started getting signed. Um, the winner wouldn't sign papers that we did. We
Oh no,
lost.
no, I know
We
absolutely.
lost, and
Big
we
big
were then
lies in the War of
and
eighteen
then we were
twelve.
back to being under Britain's control. And it's just gotten worse and worse. It's been there from day one. But I think the founding fathers and a bunch of Masons really did give us a chance. And I mean, it's not a far stretch when it was in some of their own words. We got a constitution, a republic, but as long as you keep it. So
Yes.
they knew from day one that it was going to be an ongoing fight for our sovereignty. And I honestly think that probably the War of 1812 was the turning point. And since that point, I would say that yes, it's gotten worse and worse. But from that point, I say we were under Britain's control again because of the money, and we were back to being chartered on the Rothschilds and the bankers. So
That's right. And then after that, we had Then some years later, of course, Andrew Jackson routed out the second bank of the United States.
Yes, and they shot at him.
They
That a
tried to
lot of
kill
people don't
him.
know.
That's right. And I mean, again, this is good. Let's give. I really want to touch on this since unfortunately it appears Jonathan Gray is not going to be
Yes,
joining us tonight. Let's talk a little bit about this because I have quite a bit to say about the last literal 200 years because we're talking about
yeah,
1812 to today, and I think that's where I think my the vast
expertise.
the
Yeah,
vast amount of my information is there, and I'd love to, since you clearly have a good understanding of it as well. It was a big thing about the banking. So
yes.
after
The charters. They signed charters, and from the
yes,
beginning that was going on.
but
They were,
well, I don't want
okay.
to get into too much of it
Sorry.
because we're going to take a break in just a moment.
All
But
right.
yes, we're going to go over the War of 1812, the charters. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, who are our real enemies? It's not these countries, it's the corporations, right? Well, guess what? If you had a bad corporation, right, you had a charter. Let's speak to that, Vinny. What does that mean?
Uh, I would say it's like a contract, right? It's like you're
Yeah,
signing. It's
yeah.
like a contract to get money from.
No. It's just a contract. It's a
Well, yeah.
charter. What I'm trying to say is again, every single corporation, only until I don't maybe you're not aware of this, but only until recently, there was a reason why the First Bank of the United States had a 20-year charter, and the Second Bank as well. The reason was because of corporate rules, citizenship. It was called corporate citizenship. So if a corporation was not doing well or was not for the benefit of the people, it would not be able to renew its charter. And every corporation
Uh,
had this charter
uh-huh.
at one time. And no one speaks about this on the fact that they talk about the charter of the First Bank and the Second Bank, but they never discuss the fact that every corporation, every single one,
No,
was
you're right.
subject to the same principle. And guess who had that thing repealed?
The Rockefellers, right?
You got it on the head. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
when
just started remembering that, and that
yes,
they was it Wilson or
it was
I forget
before
what, or
Wilson.
Roosevelt. Or, yeah,
Now
Wilson,
we'll
right?
talk about
Woodrow
it after
Wilson.
the break, but yeah, when we come back, we're going to talk about the War of 1812 and the rise of the Rockefellers for the last hour, and
Nice.
I think that'll be a perfect segue. And we got a lot to say on this. Thank you, Vinny. Of course, you're my co-host and my best friend, and God bless you all. And we will be right back. And you're watching We Are Change Connecticut on truthbroadcastnetwork.com.
You're listening to Project Freedom Radio,
All right, I'll be right back.
projectfreedom.ws, and watching truthbroadcastnetwork.com. You're watching We Are Change Connecticut on truthbroadcastnetwork.com and listening on Project Freedom Radio, projectfreedom.ws. UN Agenda 21, bailouts, sellouts, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, false flag, terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order, mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, man to run, Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind, prison system, profiteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years, the world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guidestones it's written in stone. Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Watch Truth Talk News Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com.
Okay, we are back. You back there, Vinny? Maybe not. Okay, so we were talking about, or we're going to go into in this next hour, the War of 1812 and the Rothschilds' subsequent Second Bank of the United States and the charters of corporations. And we'll also go into some of the other happenings involving the Rothschilds that people don't normally know through history, especially if you went to school and had a degree in history. You certainly are not aware of this. That the Rothschilds were behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The money coming from international bankers. That's right, in Canada. And we'll go through the next...
Yes, I'm back.
Hey, Vinny. Yeah, I was just figuring, that's all right. I know you got your hands full there. By the way, how's the baby? Did you go and say hi?
Yeah, I keep checking right now. She's with Tina in the kitchen and just resting right now.
That's great.
Which is good.
How's Tina doing?
It's been tough, she's doing good though. Needs to rest because it's been hard to get sleep,
Yeah, I know. It's rough. It was tough. That's why I only had one. My wife would have had more, but I was like, no, that's enough. One was fine. But it's got its advantages. I was an only child, so I look at it that way. As far as you get a little bit more attention and such, that kind of stuff, and I guess normally than you would. I don't know. I really can't really quantify it, but I had a good childhood. So anyway, ranting a little bit there. I don't. I just think that the War of 1812 we were talking about, and getting into this, the banking, the corporatism. You have some very, very obvious events. We had, well, the practical purposes was what Vinny, the lie is the actual reason for the War of 1812. That's the biggest lie. Everyone has a fabrication about how it, how it was started, and then of course everyone knows about the Star Spangled Banner was drafted during
Yeah,
during the War of 1812,
that's right.
and it was again another example of propaganda at the time. But the war itself was really about banking. It was about the fact that James Madison refused to renew the charter of the First Bank of the United States. Is that right?
Yeah, for my belief. Yeah, my
Yeah.
my research
Yeah.
says that.
My research says that too. And but what did they tell you in school, Vinny? What did they tell you in high school or in college? Especially if you had a degree in a
It was.
master's degree
They say
even.
that what it was about tax and fighting back against the British, and we beat them down.
It was about the Indian War, and it was about the Indians, and it was about soldiers that were being mistreated by it was all a nonsensical war.
I think also with like merchants. I think the
It was the
merchants
merchants,
were
yes,
were
were
getting
being were
beat
being
up by the British.
the merchants were being exactly that was it. So they said we have to protect the merchants, which is actually the when you really think about it, interesting. That's what our government's been doing, I guess, ever since, protecting the merchants, right?
Yeah,
But again, that's also a lie. It's there's truth to it all, but it's not the reason that they teach you. The real reason was because Madison said no to Rothschild. And Amschel Rothschild was freaking insanely upset about this. I mean, after all, he is a warmongering, you know, uh, profiteer who gained the bulk of his wealth by knowing in advance the results. I shouldn't say in advance, but knowing the results of the Battle of Waterloo
uh,
before the general public did, and having his agent give him this information so that he could give a lie, again like a false flag, but not really, just disinformation, saying that Napoleon had won.
yeah,
And of course that was great, so the stocks go way, 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 way up. And when it becomes knowledge that they didn't, he buys all the stock. That's
yeah,
penniless stock that's worth nothing. It was just it was the greatest swindle at that time in history. In fact,
yeah,
up until recently, the greatest swindle, up until what they did to the American people, the most prosperous nation on earth that was built through this system. And I'm glad we have the next hour to talk about this, because it's like that's what's happened since the War of 1812. Now let's explore it a little bit, Vinny. So what happens? Madison says, "Listen, you guys are a bunch of fucking crooks. We know it, and fuck you. Your charter is revoked because you are not a good corporation." Let's talk about this a little bit. That's why you were not in the best interests of the people. Why did we have corporate citizenship? Because corporations had to be in the better good. There would be no need for a better business bureau. There would be no need for contracts that are crooked, where they don't where they give clauses where, like, people, if they forget to, like, send a letter in 60 days before it ends, that they're going to renew for another 3 years or whatever. That stuff would be illegal. Or it wouldn't be illegal. You could do it, but if people complained, that
you'd be over.
your charter could be revoked. That's right. And
Well, also Andrew Jackson was also a big part of it, wasn't he? I
well,
mean,
it goes forward. Again, you're moving a little forward
okay,
in
sorry.
history. No,
Yep.
that's good. But let's stay in 1812. So basically, what Amschel Ross stated was that if you do not renew our charter, there will be a most disastrous war,
Yep.
and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Um,
And don't get it twisted, people. I mean, the British at that time was the superpower of the world. And
they are
we
still
were
us.
just
We
not
are the
that
British. See,
long
that's
here.
another. Wait, Vinny. Let's touch on this again. Read a work by Eustace Mullins called The World Order. Um, it covers a lot of this. What we're talking about. It's an important work to recognize. Eustace Mullins, The World Order. But when you get into the fact that the truth is that you hit it right on the head, America is really England. Okay,
Yep.
it's very hard. Again, the belief systems, and I've known this for a long time, and it was the same thing about Alex Jones and other things. I take a little time. I got to get a little courage to start getting out there and just telling the people that it's really true. That why do you think that it's the red, white, and blue, and so is their flag? I mean, we really still are a big
Yeah,
connection.
we're like a crown jewel.
We are,
We're a
yes,
crown. We're like Australia or something to them. They own us.
they really do. And they really do. But they don't want us to believe that because they want us to believe that we're free and independent.
Yeah, because you'll do more work for them. It's a lot easier. They don't need police,
Well, we
kicking your
did gain
face
our
in to get you
independence.
to
No.
work like a
See,
slave owner.
everyone's getting
Y- y-
misinformation, and Vinny, we don't want to mislead the people, but understand that what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that until the War of 1812, we were a free country. Do you understand that? We
Yes.
we
They were
we
trying. They were trying from day one, but we still had our freedom, our sovereignty.
we had our sovereignty, and what ended up happening is that we had a corporation of the United States that came into effect after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. But we'll get to that as we move along in the
Okay.
next 200 years. But in that time, in 1812, okay, when Rothschild sent the British Army against us, we lost the War of 1812. And history books say that America has never lost a war. History books say that the only war that we ever lost was Vietnam, and we didn't actually lose it because we just sort of like pulled out.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's
again,
what they say.
it's just the perception they want you to believe. It's not the truth.
They want you to think you have freedom,
They want you to think
but
you
you
have.
don't. Like George Collins said, they,
Yes, yes.
that's what it is. Yeah, you're free. Yeah, yeah,
You're free to do as
we
we
beat the
say.
British, but we didn't.
We never
And
beat the
same
British.
thing like what I was saying with Australia or Canada or these places that Britain owns. I
Why do
mean,
we show
it's
and
called
love the
Canada,
royal
and people
family?
think sovereign Canada, but Canada's owned by the Queen, and it's Britain,
But they
and so is
admit it. No,
Australia.
they admit it in Canada. They admit it. At least her face is on the money. But
Yeah,
but Vinny, we in America embrace this royal family like they're rock stars. Like they're.
yeah,
Did you ever wonder why? Why should we be embracing literally our enemy? Not our.
yeah.
And
The
they've
people
never
we've been
really.
fighting from day one.
But they're not our enemy because they're our allies. It's like war. Listen, it's like we're at war with Eurasia. We've never been at war with Eurasia. Right? Because we were never at war with England,
Yeah,
right? Well, no. Well, we've always been at war with England. What are you talking about? No, last week we were always at war with England. We had a fight for our independence because they were tyrannical, and we gained our independence from England. That's right. And now we are never had been at war with England. What do you mean? We never had a war with England. This is how mind control works, and that's what Orwell, I think, was trying to explain, was that
and now
we've always been at war with England, but we've never been at war with England. But what do you mean? We had a revolution, but we've never been at war with them. That was a long time ago. I mean, it's just it's disinformation.
Yep.
So we have a republic that everyone calls a democracy in the public, and we must keep the world safe for democracy as the imperialist British crown, as we all know it to be, moved along. America was supposedly separate from this crown. However, we were like involved in most of the information that went on from the War of 1812 on. As far as I can see, the British crown backed. Here's how it went. Moving along, we had 20 years of a charter for the Bank of the United States, the first bank of the United States. Madison gets rid of the charter. There's a War of 1812. They write a nice little song called the Star Spangled Banner, and we move along and we concede to the fact that the United States government was almost, and I say really almost is like it's not even close actually, almost as bad as things are today. But things were really, really bad in 1814. Things were really, really bad. And I don't know why they call it the War of 1812 when it was, it wasn't just
Yeah.
it wasn't just 1 year.
I think it's 1815, right?
Yeah, but by 1814 people were like dying. And that was the Rothschilds' plan to prolong. Does this sound familiar, by the way, to anybody listening and watching? To prolong the war, to utilize all the resources and to put the country into debt.
Yep.
And at that point where there was no choice, there was this revelation that we need a world government. No, actually, there was a revelation that we need a world government. But of course,
the League of Nations.
No, not then, my friend. No, you.
Okay.
It's
jumping ahead.
I'm staying back there now. If you remember, the Congress of Vienna, the original Congress of Vienna,
yes,
was the first attempt at world government. So that was previous. That was in the
when the Romanovs caused the problem. Right?
This is great. I love like people don't. We should do this more often, Vinny, because we obviously have similar
a lot to
say,
we know,
and we've done
a lot of research.
We've done a lot of research, right? So
yeah,
the
that's famous thing that that I was very interested in. That you're right. And the Romanovs, that's what pissed off the Rothschilds, and that's what the Bolshevik Revolution was, and Anastasia and all that. When that family was killed,
it goes to
back
that.
To you were just talking about.
But let's stay on the War of 1812. They are connected, and we're going to talk about actually Tsar Alexander's. We're going to talk about why Tsar Alexander II was killed, because of his grandfather, who was Alexander the Second. And what he did was, here's what happened in the Civil War. I don't want to jump to the Civil War, but in the Civil War, we're going to talk about him because he was backing Lincoln against the Rothschilds, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But let's stay on the War of 1812. So now the War of 1812, it's like 2008, okay? That's where America is. That's how it feels in 1814. But the difference is that the government, the people were really, really in a bad way and needed to concede, and allowed the charter of the Second Bank of the United States. So the Second Bank of the United States was established because basically the Rothschilds bankrupted our nation by sending us to war. And after they sent us to war, they left, I guess, I don't know. I think they were somewhere along the lines of, 20,000 some odd soldiers died. It was like an interesting battle, a matter of
that
battles.
too. They talk about there was like a peace treaty signed, and then the war started like a couple days later. Or
yes,
there's a lot of weird stuff that happened in that war that still don't make sense.
A lot of very strange stuff, and when you look back thereafter, what happened again, you had the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. You had Eli Whitney creating the cotton gin. You had the beginnings of the real rise of the South and the power against the North and their textile and manufacturing domination with
Yeah.
the creation of the cotton gin. So then suddenly the South was able to produce garments faster than the North, and so on and so forth. And um, what we really ended up having was, again, a buildup towards not this separatism between the slavery issue that was brewing and was there. Again, slavery wasn't wasn't the real reason for the Civil War either. But everyone is believing that, right? Wouldn't you say that's true, Vinny?
Well, that's because the propaganda, in
Yeah,
school and everywhere else tells you that.
we tell you about the propaganda. No one takes the time to look. But the fact of the matter is that let's talk about this cotton gin, 1841, I think it was.
Uh huh.
And then you have all of these resources of the slaves in the South, and you have the uh, taxation put upon
Yeah.
industry. It was actually an inverse tax. So similarly to what we're dealing with today, ladies and gentlemen, with tax the rich, okay, and that'll be fair. If we wouldn't need to tax any of these people in any way, if if our government wasn't corrupt and siphoning most of the money that they take from us for evil purposes and their own personal gains, and that's a fact. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So it's not about that. What it's about is that the money that the South was generating was being taxed at a higher rate. Listen to this. At a higher rate, they were outputting more than the North, but they were taxed more instead of being taxed less. So all of a sudden, the people in the textile mills in Massachusetts and other places in the North said, "Well, fuck that. Let's tax these ignorant Southerners, as the North always had an arrogance over the South, right?
The Yanks. Yep.
Yep. And let's show them a thing or two if they think they're gonna get this. Eli Whitney thinks he's gonna, bring the South to a new level. We'll show them, and they try to basically tax them out of competition." And it didn't work. What it really did was enrage the plantation owners when their cotton costs started to um, obviously rise due to these taxes, when it was so clearly more profitable, even with slave labor, of course. Now again, I'm not advocating the South here. Remember that. I'm talking history.
Mm-hmm.
This is history, ladies and gentlemen. So the South really was all the cotton producing states pretty much merged together and created what we know as the Confederate States of America.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right. Now, the reason they did it was because of taxation without representation. Just
By the
because they,
British.
just because, well, it is still the British. That's correct. Because again, who was taxing them?
Yep.
We had just mentioned that the Second Bank of the United States was put into place only 30 years earlier. And we still have not addressed the issue of the corporate rule. The fact that the Rockefellers, some years later, got rid of it, but it was still in place. But interestingly enough, um, Andrew Jackson, because we're jumping to the Civil War, Andrew
Mhm.
Jackson was responsible for killing the banks. Now, the banks, what they did
That's
to,
right.
yeah, I'm going to the Civil War without, I'm not moving in a linear fashion, which I guess is more like Quentin Tarantino. So I'll take that. But go back to 1830s and 1836, and you have the problem of the Second Bank of the United States, and Jackson, of course, routed out the banks and got back control of the money supply. And there was
He
no
paid off the debt.
any.
We owed zero debt after Andrew Jackson.
That is true. He is the last president, and probably
It'll stay that way,
the
probably.
only president who has ever paid off the national debt. And these criminals conspired relentlessly for the next 70 years to take control of our government and take control of the people and enslave us once again with the Federal Reserve. But we cannot be remiss to say that when the South was being taxed because of the corporations that were upset about the competition. See, we always go back to this monopoly concept. They were upset about competition, so they created basically a conflict between the North and the South.
Yep.
It wasn't about the slaves. That was just a good little sidebar.
Yeah. That's just, the Hegelian dialectic, like you will say. That was just something for people to argue about. But that wasn't the real reason.
And right from my own town here in Torrington, Connecticut, John Brown, who was born in this town, journeyed down to Harper's Ferry and lost his life in the fight against slavery. And let me tell you, slavery was one of the problems that we had. That was a social problem like we have with the child sex trafficking or the sex slavery that's going on today. It's a similar abomination on humanity, yet we allow it to occur. So people like John Brown were patriots. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it.
Yeah.
All right. So
and
now,
Andrew Jackson, I wanted to add where I was saying again where he was shot. And
twice. They tried twice.
He didn't fatally die, but he was shot. And I remember the one time they said the shooter who got caught shooting Andrew Jackson. This is historical. It's written down in history that the guy who got caught said that he was told to do it by rich, powerful families in Europe and assured that he would get away with it for free. And that's what he said. And he did get away with it.
Yes, he did, interestingly enough. But that's, again, something else people won't discuss.
Just wanted to add that in about, because Andrew Jackson was someone when I, started, like I said, you throw away everything you thought you knew, you start over. And growing up, Lincoln was probably my favorite guy to study. And then
we're just about
finding
getting
out the
there.
truth about things.
We're just about getting to Lincoln right now. This is cool.
Yeah, but Andrew Jackson, I never realized how important and how good he was for America.
He was the greatest president, in my opinion, to be honest, the greatest president we've ever had.
I might have to agree with you, Howie. That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't know that forever. He's under 20, but you never really hear much about him. As much as you hear about Lincoln and Washington and Jefferson, Edison. You don't hear Andrew Jackson's names really that much.
Man.
And now we know why, because he wasn't doing what they wanted him to do. He was taking on the system. And Lincoln, I guess, are we going to get into Lincoln now? You want to take it there?
Well, we're just about at the point now. Here's where we're at. We're talking about Andrew Jackson killing the banks, routing out the Rothschilds, creating a debt-free money for the people. Now, what happened after the taxation of the South that led to the Civil War was the fact that now the South had these great resources and these great factories, and they, interestingly enough, how this can work out to your disadvantage, they created something called the Confederate currency. Everyone's aware, right? Maybe people out there aren't aware that there was Confederate currency. So the Confederate currency had no banking interest. It was a debt-free money. It was a pledge upon the people of the South. It was not backed by gold or anything else. And interestingly enough, Lincoln utilized the same concept, but not with the fiat money system, which is basically money made out of thin air, backed by just a promise of the good faith of the Southern people. But it was a money backed by gold.
Yeah.
It was called the greenback.
That's right.
And he issued $470 million worth of gold backed greenbacks into the circulation of our economy, but not the way these criminal bankers did, because interestingly enough, he did it against the criminal bankers, because what was what was happening, he, as you know, Vinny, was actually given 30% loans offers for the federal government to finance the war against the South, because the South was so strong because they had this currency that to them was very valuable. And again, if I'm going to go into how the South lost their money and how it's similar to what's happening to us here in America, ladies and gentlemen, and it's very important that you realize where we're going. And I think you're on the same page with this, Vinny. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Yeah. This is good.
All right. So we have the South creating this incredible wealth because of their output capacity.
And sound money.
Well, it wasn't sound money.
Yeah, but better than what was going on with the British.
Well, no. What it really was, Vinny, was again right at that point we had sound money thanks to
Jackson.
Right. But the currency of the Confederacy was not sound money. Okay, there was
it wasn't backed by anything.
There was no gold
like you said, there was no interest. It wasn't you were paying it to the Rothschilds. You know,
correct.
It was they had the power to do whatever the South with it.
Right, and now let's get back to the Tsar Alexander II, who, because the Rothschilds right at that time were really trying hard to get a central bank. Okay, not only for the South, but in Russia. And he said that, and they didn't. And he stated that if the Rothschilds attempted to put in a central bank and back the South, that he would side with Lincoln, and that would be that. So they backed off. And to prove his intentions, Tsar Alexander II sent ships to New York Harbor and to San Francisco Harbor in the event that there was any funny business going on. So and they were there for the duration of the war, for those that are not aware. So that's how you get the little tie in there. So the Rothschilds were very, very upset with Tsar Alexander II.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they really hated his ass. And of course, now what did they do? Well, they got the international bankers got together, and they through Canadian resources funded the operation to kill Lincoln.
Yep.
Yeah, now I'm going to let you go since you're into the Civil War, I know. But I think I segued. That was a pretty good analysis of how we went from
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
we're going. It's a nice little timeline we're doing since the War of 1812.
right? And
Um,
then, and there was anything I missed there? We got the Andrew Jackson
no,
routed
it's
out the
great.
banks.
I'm enjoying just listening to you right now.
Andrew
Um,
Jackson routed out the banks. He took.
but yeah, the things I could add for Lincoln. There's a lot of things that I found out about Lincoln weren't as good as I thought. But then there's also a lot of things that were also kind of fascinating that I didn't know about Lincoln, and he really did kind of take on the British Empire. And through my research, I'd say that Lincoln probably in the beginning, I don't know, some people make it like he was one of them
Well,
from day one.
he was,
Uh,
but he wasn't from.
but he
See,
changed. He
yeah.
definitely changed.
Well, listen,
And
no, he knew. You're right, Vinny, because he was an attorney, as you know,
yes,
for the
in Chicago.
Rothschild for the railroads.
Uh huh.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I mean Fritz Brigmeyer has brought up things where he's part of their bloodline, and that wasn't even his real name, Lincoln. There's been a lot of things people said about Lincoln throughout the years. So whatever it was, whether he was bloodline or he was just someone that was one of them, just doing what they wanted him to do. But for whatever reason, whatever it is, at some point Lincoln did not do what they wanted, and he did try to help America, and that is why the British had him shot. And you
Just
know,
like Lincoln, I mean, just like Kennedy, the same. It's the same scenario.
yes. Now Kennedy, we know is bloodline, and we know that that's bloodline. Uh, but yeah, he again, maybe in the beginning they thought he was going to do what he was, be good to the Masons and everyone, and do what his family wanted, but he didn't. And just
Well,
like
again,
Lincoln,
he's a Catholic, and Catholicism is in like controversy, in direct conflict with Masonic, except for the fact that that's the hidden secret with the church. But
uh-huh.
the average, wouldn't you agree? The average Catholic is anti-Mason, but not realizing the connection.
I definitely agree. I mean, me, all I have to do is look at the constant paintings that the church and people put out, and I know very well that they're Masonic artwork that the church pushes off as being holy when it's nothing more than Masonic artwork to me. So,
Yeah, it's true. Wow. But then we have, all right. So let's get a little more current. So we have let's see how much see how
so
we.
yeah, so Lincoln gets killed. Um, well, also I wanted to add is I also feel that the reason why America became such a superpower for the World War One and Two and all that, you have to again go back to Lincoln. And something I found out is Germany at the time was watching America, and people, it was an experiment,
Oh no,
America,
they
and
definitely
people
were.
people were watching to see what was going to happen. Was
There
it going to
was a
work?
German Revolution, by the way,
And
and that's right.
what happened is I found out that Germany really like understood with Lincoln and what was going on about the industry and about building the roads and like you were saying with charters, we're putting money into building structures and Lincoln is really the one who turned it into an industrial power, America. I feel, and a lot of others, I think, could back it up. That Lincoln, because of Lincoln, is what turned America into an industrial power, which then led to a military power. And while he was doing that, Germany was they were like, "This is the way to go. Like, you got to be a republic. We got to be a republic and do what America's doing and become industrialized." And a lot of these countries, especially Germany, learned from Lincoln, and that's how a lot of them and everybody built up in their industries, which leads up into World War One and Two, to which then we become the superpower of the world. But really, that all goes back to Lincoln, in my opinion, and a lot of historians.
No, you're right, and it does. And then it moves forward though, because now Lincoln's gone, and then you had the
Uh-huh.
carpetbaggers, which like took all the resources of the South for the bankers. I mean, that's when once the South lost and their money was their fiat currency was valueless, they were
Mhm.
sucked up by the northern carpetbaggers and the banksters, and that's what we're facing. That's what I was foreshadowing when we were talking about that, is that this is where we're standing, where our fiat bullshit money system, and it's not going to go by a war necessarily that we're going to lose. It wouldn't be a war. It's a war against the bankers, and we're losing that because we actually enjoy going into debt because of their propaganda. So we love it. We
Uh-huh.
love to buy cars that are, instead of putting, like I said earlier, if you have 10 grand to buy a car, why in God's name would you put down money to buy a $40,000 or $30,000 or $20,000 car? Buy a $10,000 car. If you don't need a note, don't take it. If you need it, God, you know, you have to figure out a way to make more money. But you temporarily, it's a temporary fix. You can't use credit as a means of survival or a means of living. I mean, this isn't my opinion.
Well, yeah. I mean, all we gotta do is look around now, and this is the outcome of that. So, I
Yeah,
think your opinion is right, Howard.
yeah. It's terrible, and we pray that this new world order is exposed more and more each day, so that people will understand that what they're seeing is. Do you really want to buy that $80 bottle of perfume because you know Britney Spears says it makes you sexy? I mean, think about it. Think about it. I mean, the kids are, and then there's like the classes, the fact that, you have this class warfare going on. It's such a multifaceted thing, Vinny. It's so hard to break
Yeah.
down. But keeping it in line, and we only have a couple of minutes to go. After we had the Civil War and the Reconstruction period, which was really just basically just collectivism in action, collectivizing all the resources of the South for many northern interests. Some people they held on and they struggled, but they made them struggle like we're struggling.
It probably was the loss of state sovereignty too, if you think about it.
Well,
That's really when the government stepped up and said, "Yeah, we're bigger than states."
it's a good example of it, yeah, because once the war was over, the state sovereignty that which they had a right to secede, and they still do, by the way.
Yep.
But the federal government took a very soft hand and transitioned the slaves into our society and continued moving towards the Marxism, which was again only 1848. I think it was. When did Marx write his works?
I think you're right. I think it was the 30s or the 1830s or 40s.
Yeah, it was 1848. So I mean, they were
Right.
already, the elite were already on their course, leading us to today. Um, as a world, not as a country, ladies and gentlemen. They don't see the world as individual countries, and the individual
Hmm.
they want us
Yeah.
to.
There's no sovereignty.
No, no. So we, the people, we must rise. That's the tale of the show all the time, and it's really a fact. I mean, how many more examples do we need? How many more lives have to be lost in the name of liberty to keep corporations making profits from the products, in many cases, that we actually buy and consume? Food products that make us sick, medical
Hmm.
products that poison us, right?
Let's talk about like you said, those $200 sneakers and stuff that we're buying from Nike, where they got little children working in sweatshops to make,
That's
so
right.
you could look cool and look like you're the next LeBron James.
Yeah, and then Kathy Lee's like, I had no idea. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Well, if you can't believe it, then you're compartmentalized, and if not, you're just an evil person that is trying to show herself as a Christian. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
well, I don't know. Did she ever cancel that subscription? Probably for for
Yeah.
publicity reasons. Yeah,
Publicity, probably.
but if she didn't know, if nobody found out, she'd still do it, and they all do it.
She probably owns shares in the company, the sweatshops.
Yeah, that's right. The company that took it over, she bought shares in. You're right. Yeah, it's a disgusting fact, my brother. It's unbelievable.
So we didn't have Jonathan Gray, but we ended up, I think, having a good show.
We sure did. It's going to be weird on the internet. I'm not going to publicize it as Jonathan Gray, but when they look at it, it'll say guest Jonathan Gray, and he never appears.
I know. Yeah.
But I can't change that because this is live, ladies and gentlemen, live on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. I want to thank you, Bobby K, for all you've been doing since we've been trying to get our act together. Vinny and I own informedradio.com. And one of these days soon, I mean, he's got a baby here. I work a lot, and life is just. I'm in a band too. We're going to be going on the road. Azure Soul, AZURESOUL. We'll be going on the road soon, and so I'm busy as well. But I tell you this much, we will get Informed Radio back and running as an operation for liberty and freedom. And a way to reach the people, and that's a I think you can concur with that, Vinny, right?
Yeah.
It's just a process like everything else. In retrospect, look what we've accomplished. I think I went on air the very first time. It was I believe in late September of 2011 on a radio show, and then I started doing my own broadcasts for Harry recently, but on informedradio.com back in late October. So I think we're at a point where we could say that we're doing a good job and reaching a lot of people. Do you know did you know that on our live stream page, Vinny, that we're almost at 1 million minutes in like 9 months?
Really?
I'm not kidding. If you go to the livestream.com, Truth Talk News, it's like up to like 875,000 minutes, which is like an average of about 56 hours per day since November.
Wow.
So people are really watching this stuff and sharing.
Yeah, I know. The YouTube channels, a lot of things,
A lot of YouTube channels averaging 9,000 views a month, which is 300 views per day. I mean, we're not Alex Jones, controlled mainstream media, controlled alternative media, but we are really getting our message out, and I can't even quantify. Those are rebroadcasts. I don't even know how many.
And
people
now we
we're
have
reaching
Howard
right
Stern,
this
Howie.
minute. Howard Stern might be helping us. That's right. And it's all because of a grassroots movement for real truth and getting the truth out in a format that is not controlled by the oligarchs that have the money. So if there's a way we can make a living doing this independently without it being seen as some sort of profiteering operation, like most of these things I've described, like Alex Jones, then we will do that, because the more time that Vinny and I would have to dedicate to this, I think would be essential.
Yeah.
We all
definitely.
we both work hard. We work 50 hours a week to make a living for our families, and we have time to do this. And that's what we ask you to do. Have some time. Take an hour a week to put down your thoughts on a video, to think about it,
Great point.
and get it out there. Do whatever you can do to let people know you're listening to this information. Please research it, find your own truth. There's only one truth, and that is the truth. And then spread it everywhere. This is how this has been working. I can't take credit for the results we've had. It's not us. It's the truth. It's the fact that more and more people are tired of being lied to and tired of wondering what's really happening in the world. They're tired of saying, why do I have to work 50 hours a week and take another job to make ends meet? Or I have to work, so I'm working 70 hours a week. Why do I have to feed a family and go on assistance when I'm willing to work and there's no work? I mean, you think that people like welfare? I mean, there's certainly people that abuse the system, but you can't live on welfare. An average, good, hardworking American that's lost his job in this Rothschild crushed economy, you think that it's their fault? You think that the guy
Yeah.
that's been working 20 years and lost his job and now he's an older worker, he's not. I mean, what do you think they're doing, ladies and gentlemen? They're destroying our economy. And they're blaming it on the people being lazy. You got lazy people. Oh, there's the 2-minute warning. I can never forget. When I get the 2-minute warning, we know we're coming close to the end. So I got to thank Pam Suggs, UnitedTruthSeekers.com, Harry Link, DeathToTheNewWorldOrder.com, here on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. And I cannot forget, ever forget, my good friend, Bobby K at ProjectFreedom.ws. All right, Vinny, any closing thoughts on the tyranny? Because it's coming.
No.
You hear the tyranny. You can hear it. You hear the sirens. You hear the sirens blaring.
I just wanted to say it was a great show. I enjoyed, really good show today listening.
All right. Well, you know that it's only a chance that we have together. A moment. But we have our whole lives and our days to fight the New World Order. God bless you, Vinny, and your baby. And again, God bless you and Tina and your newborn. Enjoy everything. And join me one night on Truth Talk News.
Definitely.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. And we'll talk a little bit more about stuff. You're always welcome, my brother. God bless you.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you on the phone or something tomorrow in a couple days, something.
All right, we'll be rocking it out. And
All right,
again,
man.
we will get Jonathan Gray happening here. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, he loves the show. He likes us. He wanted to come on. I guess there just was a misunderstanding or something.
Yeah, it does happen from time to time, but what can one do? All right, we're gonna be going out here with a little bit of Azure Soul, a little over here. I don't know if I'm still broadcasting on ProjectFreedomRadio.com, but we are still broadcasting live on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, and the rebroadcast will appear upon YouTube.com/Freedom First Films. Don't ever forget Freedom First Films. All we have is freedom. Watch Truth Talk News Monday through Thursday on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nobody's cares about Larry King and Bill O'Reilly.
I know,
It's a joke.
I know it is a
Go
joke.
interview Jenna Jameson. Like, get real, man. This ain't real news. So, they're already losing. The newspapers, that's why so many newspapers had to go under, because
That's right.
a lot of people aren't buying their crap anymore, you know. But they'll still continue to push it because they don't care. It's not about making money on this issue. This is about mind control, and they're paying it's like advertising. It's like they're paying news companies to advertise for them. That's really all it is. And that's the point I'm
It's
making.
more
That
than advertisers to control them, you know.
yeah, but I mean they're just selling what the investor wants them to sell.
Right.
Like a salesman is what these news people are, and they're going down. But I always talk about this too, Howie. It's a good point. I mean, it's not just the news. It's stop going to McDonald's. Stop. Me. I've got I haven't had internet. Not internet. Cable or anything in years, and a lot of people I know, like, get away from it. Like, you know, really all you need is the internet if you want to be able to do things. I
It's
mean, if
true.
you have the internet, you can watch whatever you want. You might not be watching, the live CSI or whatever you're watching on these things, but you can watch basically anything. Uh, a day later, you can download things. I mean, you don't need it. Don't give your $100 something a month to these companies. Try to, it's about everything. Trying to get away from all their systems.
All full of this whole thing, and just my own feelings about how our father for the last 22 years basically has tried to control our entire lives. So being the way I am, I sort of like ripped into it, and I was a little over, like, and then I mean, he wants to let Patrick get these vaccinations, and of course he didn't, though, since I've been aware. And it's like, and that's it. And I said, if he's going to have a heart attack because my son doesn't get a vaccine, well, so be it. And anyway, so I'm like sort of in the doghouse a little with my wife these days, or from now forward. I don't know how long, but whatever. I got to
Sorry
tell
to hear
you,
that.
yeah,
But
man. But it is
again,
what
the
it
truth
is,
is,
man. But
is
the truth
nobody's
is,
perfect, and we
nobody's
all
perfect,
have
and I
our.
lost my cool
Yep.
because this is very frustrating to me. See, I don't. This isn't a game. I don't look at this. She thinks this is like entertainment to me, maybe, or whatever. But maybe whatever. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. To me, this is an extremely serious thing that has a purpose
Yep.
and a meaning, and I need to be in the right frame of mind to do it. And her father calling, and right before I do a show or during the show or whatever, like it happened here, before the phone rang a while, and you know what, all this stuff distracts me, and it frustrates me. So yeah, and what am I gonna scream at the audience? Yeah, God damn it, it's all your fault. But the truth is that it's my fault, and I was out of line, and I'm telling that to the entire world. So I am
Well, that's
human.
pretty big of you, Howie.
Well, I
And
really was out of line, man, and she's mad. I know she's mad, and I hurt her feelings. But you know what? I hurt her feelings because she's been, again, to a certain degree, and I'm not taking any ownership off what I did, and
as much as we can, that's the whole off the grid way of living. That's why me and Hank and a lot of people, I'm sure Howie, you're the same way, is a lot of us want to get alternative ways of energy.
yes,
Why give my money to Rockefeller every month for electric,
yeah,
or whoever, General Electric.
same thing.
So, what if you could, make your own, or solar panels or anything, any way to get out of the system is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the nonviolent ways that we always talk about,
Yes.
without, bearing arms and marching. You can do a lot by non-compliance, by not giving your money to these companies, and that is a big thing,
Well, that's what
and
we try to talk about. I mean, everything,
yeah,
especially
that's why I'm glad you brought it up. It
the
is that's
wasted money to for the useless things. I mean, people need electricity, Vinny, and these other things. But you're right; they're
yeah,
profiteering off of it. But the truth is that the consumerism, getting people that they need to get these things to feel good. And like I really
uh-huh.
feel bad. I got angry because before the show started, my wife came in. She's talking to her father-in-law, something about some thing with like rodents having some disease someplace. So like
Okay.
I sort of really was really yelling and screaming. I really wasn't talking properly to her, and it's terrible. And I do that sometimes. It makes me sick. And then I really feel bad about it. But the point was that her father was like, "I'm going to get a heart attack unless you get rid of these creatures." And I'm like, "This is right before we go to air, right before I spoke to you." And I'm like, "Well, we ask you to do one thing. We don't ask you to hide. We ask you to research, find out all the information that I'm talking about is true, and Vinny's talking about. Look into it. It's really true." And then say to yourself, "Well, that makes more sense why they would not want people to know this." Well, then tell people. And if all of our voices unite, they can't make up these lies. It's eventually like the way I look at television and the media and everything, it's a joke, okay? If all of America, instead of only a small percentage of Americans, could wake up to that, they can't get away with their bullshit. So our job is to wake up the masses so that they don't watch television. They watch shows like We Are Change Connecticut and Truth Talk News and Death to the New World Order with Harry Link and this is what, and on truthbroadcastnetwork.com, and they watch all the shows on Project Freedom Radio, including Bobby Kay's shows. He's got several of them. And they get the information there. They don't get the information from these liars. And then the liars won't be getting any revenue because nobody will be watching them. So
they're already not making any money. They're there just to push the agenda.
well, that's true. The news
It's
never
like the
makes
network.
money.
Remember in the network,
news
it didn't
always
even matter
lose
they were
money.
losing money. He was pushing what they wanted to push, and that's what it is nowadays. Nobody,
It's never
Fox
changed.
News, all that, they've all been going down. The only reason that they had that big spike was 9/11. Everybody was obsessed with the news because of war. But then once that wears off, I mean...
Truth Talk News, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. All right. Okay, we're at pretty much the halfway point of the second hour. That's the little warning sign. I always get that. It's
Okay.
pretty cool. Just let me know where I'm at. Oh, goodness. I'm just like, we got off track here. You're saying that's what it does. It's like, and then it makes us look dumb, or like we're lying or something.
And then we got to scatter around trying to get everything going again.
Yeah, well, we could figure it out again. I'm not worried about it.
Well, you technically, because I used to sit in the studio with you, and I remember the blue screen and everything.
Oh yeah, we've seen it. Oh yeah, you know what happens. Yeah. Oh. It's crazy. Anyway, so there will be probably these little like spots on the rebroadcast in those exact areas where it'll be black or it'll be a freeze frame, and you won't hear nothing, and then it'll come back in the live time. That's what I've noticed when they do this. So then a lot of the stuff that we were even talking about, they won't even hear. I mean, it won't even it won't get broadcast because we're talking over the freeze. But whatever, I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm just glad that it's obvious to everybody that continues to watch and share the information. And they see that it's that we, again, what I say on the show on Monday through Thursday and what Vinny and I are talking about today, we don't ask you to believe us. And as far as the fact that they are attacking us, we know why they're attacking us.